Hi there, welcome back to this Git and GitHub course series. In this section, we are going to cover one of the most important steps in setting up Git, configuring it to fit your preferences and work seamlessly with your project. By the end of this section, you will have a fully customized Git environment to start working with on your project. First, let's talk about how Git knows all of the infos here in the commit details message. So thus, if you remember, we did commit our files in the previous lesson. Well, that's because of the configuration files I already set it before in my computer locally and with the Git software. So there is two ways to configure the configuration files with the git config command. So we can do it globally and locally here. So the global configuration applies to all the repositories on your computer. What I mean by that, this is where you will define general setting like your name and your email. And for the local one, the local configuration applies to individual repositories. If you want a specific setting for a single project, you will use the local config. And most developers working with the global one. Now we will learn that in the practice, and I will show you how to set up your name and email in your computer, as well as we will learn about how to configure the editor. In my case is VS Code, and yours may be Sublime Text editor or another editor. So Git will know this editor and work with. So you can open up this GitHub documents and following the steps, they explained here everything, whether you are on Mac or Windows or Linux operating system, almost the same process here. So to set up your configuration with the name, just you have to run on your terminal or your command prompt on your, if you are on Windows, type the git commit -- global user.name. Between the double quotes here, type your name or whatever your name you choose. And for the email also, it's the same command, will be git config -- global user.email. And between the double quotes, you can just add your email. So this is the two things you need to set it. So later on, whenever you make any commit or pushing in your Git will knows your name and your emails, as I mentioned in our folder here once I did the commit. And he also showed me in the commit details my name and my email. Now let's do it in practice. Just type git config -- global and user.name. And between the parentheses, just type your name here. In my case, is Harp, for example. And press the enter. I already did that process before, so I will not do it now. But for you, it's available. You can do it immediately if you didn't do that process before. Once you did the enter, it will ask you also to add the email. So do the same thing, git config, type git config -- global and user.email. Between the double quotes here, just type your email. For example, email at gmail.com, for example, and etc. So you can type your email, personal email, or any email you wanted Git to remember you with it. And after you're doing that, you will enter, and that's it. Now Git knows you, and once you're doing any commit or any changes on your Git repository project. And there is also another command I want to show you here, which is to check if you did configure your name and email in the configuration setting within your local computer. So just type git config and -- list. And once you enter, it will shows you here all the previous name and emails it's been added to your computer before. Now let's work with another command, which is git config global core.editor between the double quotes code --wait. And this one is for the configuring the default text editor. So what I mean by that? So Git often requires you to edit messages, especially when you merge or rebase. By default, Git may use a terminal-based editor like Vim, which can be a bit tricky for beginners. To change that, you can configure Git to use your preferred editor like Visual Studio Code. Here is how to do it. Just run the command here, git config in your terminal, git config --global core.editor, and between the double quotes code --wait. And that will connect your Visual Studio Code with the Git locally. Now, anytime Git needs you to edit a message, it will open a VS Code for you. Okay, but there is a catch here. I want you to be aware of it, which is, let's open VS Code. I will show you here. Sometimes when you're installing VS Code, your terminal may not be aware of this command. So all what you need to do is just, if you are on a terminal, just press the command Shift and P, and it will open up this banner here to search. And if you are on Windows, just type the Control Shift and P. So here, just type code, and this one, it's your terminal. It's your Git locally connected with the code. Now your VS Code is aware of the Git. Here we go. By the way, you can set another code editor, example Sublime Text Editor or something else. Just Google it if you want to do so. Good. At this point of time, you are aware of how to set up all these things. Now I want you to practice a bit. Go back to your repository, create more files, and add the commit them, and that's it for this session. Next, we will learn about git ignore file. Okay, and see you there.